Dear listeners, before we begin this story, drop a few words in the comments where you listen from. And if you have any ideas on how to make the channel better, feel free to do so. Now let's get down to business. My name is Ilya, I'm 34 years old. I work as a manager in an IT company in Moscow. And on Tuesday at 1:47 a.m. my phone vibrated from a message that hit me harder than a hangover after a corporate party. The letter was from my wife Irina, 31. She was supposed to be at a business conference in Krasnaya Polyana, but instead of boring presentations she sent a photo. She and Sergey, her colleague, are posing in some kind of aliphatic wedding photo zone at a casino, smiling like two morons, and holding some certificates with seals in their hands. The text read, "I just married Sergey. I led you by the nose for 8 months." Quote, "It was easier than pie to fool such a simpleton. Thanks for everything, fool. Live in your sad yardstick now." I stared at the screen for about 30 seconds with a face like I saw last year's Olivier salad stirring in the fridge. Then, with the dignity of a Shakespearean hero, I sent her one word, "Got it?" and cut off the microphone, as they say. Before she could blink, I realized that I had to act with lightning speed. Irina could be a cunning schemer, but when it came to finances, she was a complete zero. Everything was registered in my name, a townhouse in the Odintsovsky district, bought before the marriage. By the way, bank accounts in Tenkov, Izber, even her cards were just additional to my account. Rookie mistake, Irinka. At 2 a.m., I blocked all her cards. Through a mobile app, I changed the passwords for banking, mail, government services, from everything she had access to. Then I called an emergency locksmith from a 24-hour service. 12,000 rubles. A bit pricey for a night call, but worth every penny. The receipt was saved in the app. The documents are ours. Everything, as they say. The locksmith rushed in at 4:30 in the morning, changed the locks on the front door to New Gordian, reprogrammed the remote control for the sliding gate. By 5 o'clock in the morning, the fortress was impregnable. I crawled back into bed with a sense of accomplishment and a slight lack of sleep, like a ninja after a night operation. At 9 o'clock in the morning, I got up and went to the kitchen. I'm sitting, sipping cold tea with lemon, watching the latest episode of Knife Fight with Konstantin Ivlev on YouTube. Nothing lifts the mood more than watching Ivlev yell at the chef, who considers mayonnaise a universal sauce for all dishes. And then bam, bam, bam. The front door shook as if someone was trying to knock it down with a battering ram. At first I thought maybe the water filter retailers were being particularly persistent, but no. I looked through the peephole. She, Irina, red as a lobster, furious, tugging at the door handle as if trying to rip it out by the roots. "Open the door immediately. Why aren't my keys working?" Quote, she yelled. I took a big sip of tea, calmly walked over to the refrigerator, took out a 1.5-liter bottle of cold water, which I usually keep for the heat and uninvited guests. I walked up to the door, sighed, and opened it slightly on the chain. "Oh, Irochka, your keys don't work because you don't live here anymore. Remember Krasnaya Polyana, Sergey, the wedding photo zone?" "Ilya," she yelled. "You have no right. This is illegal." And before she could unfold the prepared tirada, I splashed 1.5 liters of ice water right in her face through the crack in the door. She squealed as if I had poured acid on her instead of water, and jumped back from the porch like a scalded cat. "Cool down, darling, and get lost." I politely but firmly closed the door and returned to Ivlev, who was just tearing the establishment to pieces for its dirty hood. Wonderful parallels with life. Voyron in 5 minutes. Yes. She called the police and claimed that I had attacked her with a dangerous object. A patrol car arrived, ready to sort things out. Citizen, we have received a call about a domestic dispute. Your wife claims that you are not letting her into the house and that you threw a glass object at her. Technically, she is already an ex-wife, and it was a plastic bottle of water. Regular mineral water. They asked to see the camera footage. It's a good thing I recently installed a video intercom with a motion sensor. Thank goodness I have the foresight to do so. She is watching the footage. She is pounding on the door. I calmly pour water on her. She waves her arms like a wet chicken. Citizen, this is not an attack. This is cooling off, said the elder, trying to keep a straight face. I showed her the phone, and look, she is no longer my wife. Last night she married someone else. Here's a message with a photo. The elder raised his eyebrows, the younger barely suppressed a grin. She also claims that you appropriated her property and money, they continued. Comrade police officers, I have documents for the townhouse. Purchased before marriage, personal property, according to Article 36 of the Family Code. Bank cards are issued in my name. She was only the holder of additional cards. I did not touch her personal belongings. We checked the authenticity of the correspondence, looked at the documents. The district police officer, having spoken with Irina, said, Citizen, this is a civil law dispute. You are not registered here. The owner has the right to restrict access. Resolve this through the court, and I warn you, do not destroy other people's things. Article 7.17 Captain. Administrative. I hear whiskey. Irina is furious. The police said goodbye, told her to leave the area and left. She continued to yell for a long time about wet hair and moral damage. I returned to the house, brewed fresh tea, added lemon. Peace and quiet. Until the next episode. We do not have children, thank God. I signed a contract with lawyer Roman Zuravlev. Who else can you rely on in such a situation? We met that same evening. It was necessary to act proactively. The next morning, when I was wondering whether to finally vacuum or continue the noble inaction, chaos returned. This time in the form of a whole landing party of naughty sportage. I heard the whistle of brakes, the slamming of doors and the unmistakable sound of impending drama. I look out the window. All of them. Irina, Sergei with the look of a beaten dog, who clearly regrets every decision he makes. Lyudmila Viktorovna, Irina's mother, clutching a bag of papers in her hands. As if they were sacred tablets. And Camilla. Oh, Camilla, Irina's sister, that's a separate song. Nature has awarded her such forms that they require separate insurance and warning signs. If she fell off a cliff, seismologists would record an earthquake. She doesn't walk, she floats majestically, and everything else obeys the laws of physics around her center of gravity. This armada moved towards the house like an assault squad. You're a coward, Irina screamed. You humiliated me in front of the police. Technically, you humiliated yourself. I was just a witness. Lyudmila Viktorovna tried to take matters into her own hands. Young man, this is still my daughter's house. Then why did your daughter marry another man in some casino in Sochi? Lyudmila Viktorovna, explain this riddle to me. Sergei stood behind everyone, looking as if he wanted to fall through the ground or teleport to another universe. Maybe not here, he muttered. Camila, in a top that emphasized her dignity rather than hid it, crossed her arms, almost causing a solar eclipse. Are you acting childish, Ilya? I am acting childish. I did not cheat on my wife for 8 months, Did not marry the first person I met in Krasnaya Polyana and did not show up at my ex's with a whole camp, as if we were renting Dom 2. And then Irina, her eyes bulging, said, "We are ordering a house appraisal. I need my other half." I simply picked up the phone. "Smile, you're alive. Oh yeah, and your second marriage automatically disqualifies you from any property rights. It's not a monopoly, baby. Pass the checkout." Lyudmila Viktorovna gasped as if I'd said something blasphemous. Sergey turned around and walked back to the car. Like, I was just passing by. And Camila, turning around and knocking down my mailbox by the gate with her bust, proudly walked away. I laughed so much that my stomach hurt. I called Roman. "The second act of the circus is over. I'll send you the video." Thank God for motion sensor cameras and tea with lemon. Sergey looked like he wanted to be anywhere but here. I think the euphoria from the wedding in Krasnaya Polyana quickly passed when he realized that his newlywed wife was effectively homeless and penniless. A few hours later, as I settled in with a shawarma and an old Steven Seagal action movie, Parn, the circus was back. Again? Have I made myself clear enough? Round 2. Same cast. Irina is now in full hysteria mode. Lyudmila Viktorovna jumps out of the car like a prosecutor at the trial of the century. Sergey still radiates the aura of a man who deeply regrets his existence. And Camila, I swear, these forms should be registered with Rostekhnadzor as an object of increased danger. She emerged from the car 2 seconds after everyone else. Apparently they needed time to maneuver. They tried everything. Lyudmila Viktorovna pointed her finger in the air like the conductor of an invisible orchestra. "I'm calling the police. This is illegal." I leaned against the doorframe, sipping my iced tea. "Oh, please, Lyudmila Viktorovna, do you want to do it again? Remember last time the police asked if I was okay?" She muttered something under her breath. Camilla stepped forward, thrusting her bust forward like a battering ram. "You're just a sick control freak." "Sorry, I didn't hear you. I was distracted. How should I say this? Gravitational anomaly. Is that your own postcode or a life jacket?" Sergey, poor naive Sergey, decided that this was his moment to shine. He tried to puff out his chest and act like an alpha male, although it was obvious that he had been dragged here against his will. "Listen, man, you're behaving inappropriately." "Oh, Seryoza," I interrupted him. "And by the way, I'm sending your wedding photos from Krasnaya Polyana to the HR department and security service. I've heard they love stories about corporate conferences that end in weddings in casinos. Especially when it comes to discrediting behavior at business events." Sergey turned as white as A4 office paper. Irina meanwhile burst into theatrical sobs, as if she was auditioning for a role in the melodrama Moscow. Tears does not believe too. "Are you kidding me?" She read. "This is financial abuse." "Oh, you mean the boxes with your wardrobe from BFRI and Glia ADNS, which I carefully packed in bubble wrap." I pointed to the garage. "You have an hour to load everything. Then I will start charging an hourly rate for storage." And then came the icing on the cake. They went to register the Gazelle, which I generously booked through Yandex Go Freight in Irina's name. She tried to pay with her card. Rejected. "This is some kind of mistake," she muttered to the cashier. "Try again." Rejected twice. "Maybe you can call the bank and find out who paid in the end?" That's right, our hero Sergey. The look on his face when he took out his Bank card was worth all my efforts. The soul left his body so clearly that you could document it for scientific purposes. But the most interesting thing happened later. Yesterday, my lawyer Roman Zuravlev called. Ilya, you won't believe it. Irina is trying to challenge her second marriage. She says she was drunk and was forced to. And pay attention, she wants to claim a share in your house, because formally you were still married when she left for Sochi. Roman laughed so hard that he almost fell off his chair. She herself sent you written confirmation of infidelity and attempted bigamy. That's it with her, Ilya. It's not even funny, it's fantastic. And then I found out through mutual friends. Sergey lives with his mother in a 2-room apartment in Bryalovo. He sleeps on a folding bed. He thought Irina had money. It was a real bummer. But that's not the end. Irina has launched a whole campaign on social networks, vKontakte, Telegram channels. She wrote everywhere that I was an aggressive abuser who drove her into a toxic marriage, and she was forced to look for love on the side. Lyudmila Viktorovna and Kamila actively spread this. Some of our mutual friends even believed it. But Irina forgot about one thing. I have a friend Zakhar, our techie, a genius in IT. He helped restore an interesting correspondence between Irina and Sergey on vKontakte over the past year. There she bragged about how she plays the long game and saves money before leaving. My favorite message: he is such a sucker. I have been transferring money from the card for groceries to my account for several months now. I will soon save up for our wedding, honey. Yes, about that very card for groceries. It was my additional card that I gave her for household expenses. I showed her the statements. She withdrew cash supposedly for food, but spent a maximum of half. God knows where the rest was. I posted screenshots, and her whole legend fell apart like a house of cards. Then came the height of idiocy. First, she persuaded my father to call my boss. Imagine, a grown man calls and says, "Your employee is bullying my girl," as if we were at school and I was pulling her pigtails. My boss Andrei Petrovich, who was following this whole story like a TV series on Kinopisk, politely advised him to take his problems to the competent authorities. Corporate language for get lost, Grandpa. The next episode is at 5 o'clock in the morning with screams at the door. Irina tried to break down the door, screaming about Grandma's jewelry, as if Grandma died and left her the family diamonds. Spoiler: Grandma is alive, well, and wears this jewelry to the community center. Then there was the accusation of killing a cat. Friends, we never had a cat. I am allergic to cats. The most we had alive was a dying succulent, which she forgot to water for 3 months. But that's not all. She started calling my mom. Tears, a trembling voice, an Oscar-winning performance. I made a mistake. Sergey means nothing to me. My mother, who subsists exclusively on black coffee and sarcasm, replied, "Darling, you should have thought about this before you spent 8 months writing horizontally with him." Harsh, elegant, almost Shakespearean. But the absolute pinnacle of impudence happened yesterday. Galina Petrovna, Sergey's mother, called me. Her voice was like a mixture of cognac and condemnation. Quote, "Ilya, I think you should be generous and take Irina back. Sergey can't support his wife. He made a mistake. You know what young people are like. I had to go to jail. I was afraid that such impudence would give me a stroke. Forgive me, do I understand correctly? You are asking me to take back a woman who cheated on me with your son so that your son will not have to bear responsibility for his betrayal." Galina Petrovna without a hint of irony. But when you say it like that, it sounds selfish. Marriage is forgiveness. Forgiveness. Galina Petrovna is not a melodrama on Russia 1. It's a Tarantino-style scam. I hung up without waiting for an answer and laughed for about 20 minutes. Forgiveness. Of course, right after I forgive that non-existent cat for the suspicious death. Yesterday evening, Irina sent the last dramatic message from an anonymous number. Apparently, she's fighting blocking like a gorilla. You've ruined my life. I hope you're happy. I answered very much. Thank you for your concern. And I blocked this number too. Another day. Another anonymous SIM card banned. Tomorrow is the first hearing with the magistrate on divorce. Roman says, everything will be simple. Irina technically attempted to commit bigamy. You know, such a trifle to marry another man without dissolving the first marriage. Details. And I must say, the hearing did not disappoint. Pure judicial theater, material for the showman and the law. Irina showed up in a white dress. At the divorce hearing. In a white dress. The irony was so thick that you could cut it with a knife. Camilla came with her, a walking threat to public safety. I swear, you need permission from Rosteknadzor for this bust. The bailiff kept his distance out of self-preservation. The face of Judge Tatiana Viktorovna Kuzmina when they entered was priceless. Something is happening between what, and why am I doing this? And then, in the middle of the hearing, Roman leans towards me. Listen, do you have Camilla's number? I blink. What? Sorry. Well, I have a theory. To be strangled by such assets. Seems like a pleasant death. I just look at him. You represent my interests in the divorce proceedings and hit on my ex's sister. I'll rip off 20,000 from the account. I gave him the number. Listen, don't judge. It's 20,000 and moral compensation. If he is destined to die, let him die happy. The hearing was adjourned. I left feeling like watched a reality show of his own production. Irina's lawyer tried to trump at the last moment. They say that the marriage in Sochi does not count because Irina was under emotional pressure. Allegedly, she is a fragile flower, confused by Sergei's promises. What exactly Sergei could promise, besides a thin beard and a meter card, remained a mystery. The judge leaned forward. What exactly do you mean by coercion in this context? The lawyer with the confidence of a poor student at the board. Sergei promised her, made her believe that divorce was the only way out. Then Roman stood up, inspired by justice and a triple from the press. Your Honor, I have 69 pages of correspondence from V. Contacta. Yes, exactly 69. Shows how the defendant spent a year planning her escape to Sochi. He threw the printouts on the judge's table, like a trump card in preference. The judge began to leaf through them. Her face changed from professionally neutral to slightly disgusted, and then to barely restrained laughter. Ms. Gorshkova, the judge cleared her throat. You wrote that, I quote. I can't wait to see his stupid mug when he realizes that I screwed him over completely. Irina turned the color of a boiled lobster. This is taken out of context. I couldn't resist. And what context does this improve? Were you playing Monopoly? Dead silence. The judge banged her gavel. The marriage was dissolved. Irina left the courtroom with the personal belongings of her cinema, for which she still had to pay a lot and nothing else. She was not assigned any alimony. This is generally rare in our courts. She has no children. But the court ordered her to pay me compensation of 30,000 rubles a month for 6 months for the fact that I paid for her advanced training courses last year. Only 180,000, but the fury on her face was priceless. Roman and I left the courthouse in high spirits, enjoying this a small legal victory. And then Lyudmila Viktorovna, Mother of the Year, if it's 1973 and the competitors are empty bottles, started screaming like a seagull whose last crust of bread was taken away. "You stole everything from my child." She waved her arms as if she was going to physically challenge the court's decision. Before I could blink, Camila, yes, that same walking threat, snatched a glass of Star's coffee and tried to splash coffee on me. Spoiler, she missed. A direct hit on Galina Petrovna, who came to support the young couple. As if this was a melodrama on Russia 1, and not another episode. Let them talk. And then a real coffee battle began. Caramel wrath flew in all directions, pumpkin armor splashed everyone within a 3 meters radius. Security had to intervene and separate the ladies, like in a school cafeteria, for emotionally unstable aunties. And Sergei wasn't even there. Galina Petrovna's heartbreaking screams revealed that her precious son had already started an affair with a 22-year-old barmaid whom drumroll had met at his own wedding in a hotel bar in Krasnaya Polyana. Because, of course, Irina had a breakdown then too. Not just a tear or a dramatic look into the distance. No, a full-blown hysteria with snot, sobs, and sounds that only babies or dehydrated tourists make. Everything was supposed to go wrong, she sobbed, as if the universe hadn't given her a loyalty card for emotional manipulation. Camilla, already slightly sticky from the remains of Lada, tried to console her sister. "Everything is fine, honey. You can stay with me." To which Irina replied through her snot, "I can't. Your apartment smells of cats and melancholy, and your mattress is all in pellets." Even Camila looked tired at that moment, as if she remembered that she had left her dignity somewhere in a past life. According to the latest rumors, Irina lives with her parents. Sergei is engaged to that barmaid. Both were fired by mutual agreement after an internal investigation. Lyudmila Viktorovna was banned from visiting 2 chocolate shops for pestering the borists, who looked vaguely like Sergei. One poor guy was just making cold coffee when she started yelling, "I know what you did to my daughter. You are a sellout coffee soul." Camila, meanwhile, went public, started a blog on Telegram about how she broke up with toxic relatives and about the daily difficulties of finding lingerie for plus-size women. I read it twice and saved it. For scientific purposes, of course, Galina Petrovna is now suing Irina for moral damage caused to her son. Which sounds especially ridiculous coming from a woman whose offspring found a new passion playing poker during his honeymoon. And I'm thriving. Sold a townhouse for much more than the market price. It turns out that a scandalous story provides excellent traffic to the Nazis. Moved to an apartment in the center with concierges, security and zero chance of ambushing exes in the bushes. And the best part, I started dating Evgenia from the fitness club. She thinks this whole story is hilarious. Last week she brought me coffee with the inscription, "Not Sergei" in marker on the glass. I laughed so hard I almost pulled my abs. Roman framed a printout of that certificate from Krasnaya Polyana. Now it hangs in his office. Between the diploma and the sticker. Divorce is cheaper than a fight. People always ask if I regret being so petty. No, not a drop. She played stupid games, won the main prize at the clown circus. My only regret is that I didn't notice the red flags sooner. Like when she told me her ex was crazy because he changed his Kinopisk password after she cheated on him. I should have guessed right away. If you defend cheating with passwords, you're not a wife, you're a walking violation of the user agreement. So yeah, I'm doing great. More than Irina, if you're listening, and let's be honest, you are, you've turned monitoring this channel into a full-time job, a little warning. Sergey's mom called you a greedy gold digger at her book club. Right between discussing Anna Karenina and the third bottle of Prozac. I think you should know. And I say this with care and concern. I think Camila is developing gravitational chest collapse syndrome. Don't Google it, I made it up. Yes, I used a neural network to name a fake disease. I'm glad I'm using it for good now. Sue me. Although no, Irina already tried and lost with a vengeance. We're breaking the fourth wall. Zhenya and we're very close now. She's officially moved in. And let's just say the girl has black belt skills in certain areas. Had to retire my collection of bachelor's assistants. They served well, but their time had passed. And as for Sergey's fiancée, that barmaid, she dumped him as soon as she found out he was already married to my ex. Plot twist. Her brother gave Sergey a parting gift in the form of a fist before throwing him out the door. Moral of the story: lie, cheat, try to marry too. And you'll end up with a black eye, a bag of frozen dumplings instead of ice, and not a single ride home. Roman. By the way, he used his charms on Camila. Lately, he's been taking her to budget UNCAT hotels. A good lawyer, but likes to save. Honestly, imagining them together gives me goosebumps. How can you maneuver in bed with such assets? Roman then called as if I had given him eternal youth. His exact words are the best experience in my life. A few days later, Roman sent me a copy of a new application from Irina. In the reason for divorce column, she wrote, "Ready? Temporary insanity. You can't make this up." Quote, "The jokes write themselves." Dear listeners, if you laughed, let me know in the comments. And don't forget to like, share and subscribe.